All right, so we can go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us at the Cisco Live Recap Lunch and Learn. Just a little housekeeping, everyone is on mute so that we can minimize disruptions, but feel free to type your questions in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat and make sure that we get your question answered that way. Let's see if there's anything else that we need to get done right now. There isn't. So what we'll do is just go ahead and get started. I will kick it off to our master ceremonies, Blake.
Hey everybody, good morning, good day, or good afternoon, depending on where our panelists and our attendees have joined from. Thank you for joining us today for July's Cisco Live Recap Lunch and Learn session. Today, we're going to spend about an hour and a half going through some of the key topics that we've discussed on our keynotes in Las Vegas this year. We're going to be discussing cloud control, AI Canvas, and Cisco IQ. These are three very important topics for us. We are in the transition, moving into an agentic AI era. Now, these are some platforms that you might have something similar in your environment today. Maybe you're working with Catalyst Center or Nexus Dashboard, or you have some solutions like Thousand Eyes or Contact Center that you touch on a daily basis. Now, cloud control is cloud delivered, obviously, and it's AI native. It has AI Canvas built in, which is where our agentic AIs are living, and all of the AI assistants that you have in your disparate dashboards today are being co-located together to be able to provide you with that overarching data sharing and telemetry across your entire environment. And that's going to be spanning all of your verticals, whether it's networking, data center, visibility, security, collab, or even asset management. So with that, I want to go ahead and hand it over to Al Dumde, introduce you to him. He is our SLED Cloud Control and AI Canvas SE champion. And thank you for joining us today, Al. You're going to be walking us through some of the finer points and giving us an idea of how cloud control is what the customers have been asking for, right?
You bet. You bet. So first, let me just say thanks for everybody for taking time to join us for this. I think you're going to find this to be something that, we introduced this whole agentic AI concept about a year ago. And it's been a real fast ride, for lack of a better term, for me over the last year as we develop this. And not only are we building out these AI tools, we're using AI to build tools, right? So our rate and our ability to build tools is constantly improving and evolving. And I am seeing feature velocity at rates I've never seen before, right? Now, here's the good and the bad with that, right? Is we're giving you lots of new capability. AI has come up with, we can code things very quickly. We can produce software very quickly. We can also hack things very quickly, right? And so now there's all kinds of new vulnerability things to be concerned about. Well, I don't want to go down that track right now. Just going to throw out that as that's part of this whole journey that we're going down. And so over the course of the last year, it's really evolved. And I have discussions with various CIOs and CTOs across the organization, and pretty much everybody that I talk to is in the same camp. It's like, I see this wave, it's coming, it's going to hit me. How am I going to be able to handle this, right? I'm already understaffed, they're already overworked. And so how am I going to manage this, right? And I like the 85% of all IT outages are caused by human error. My family will tell you that is 100%. Because I'm constantly breaking our network and running tests on it. So, that's, I think a big part of what we're here to solve. And when we talk about this, we're going to talk about this from two different levels. We're going to talk about it from a kind of a proactive level and then a reactive level. First thing I'm going to do before we get into the newer products, I just want to take just a second and go through a little bit of some of the stuff that's existed for a little while. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. I just want to kind of recap just a little bit because we're not new into AI, right? We've been using AI for a long time. It's just that some of the stuff kind of runs in the background, and the biggest change that we've seen over the last year is that conversational AI. But we've had AI, ML running in the background for some time. For example, AI RM, right? And so if you said, hey, that's great. And by the way, there are times I will talk about Meraki a little bit more. There are times I'll talk about maybe Catalyst Center a little bit more. Don't over-rotate on, hey, this is a Catalyst Center, this is a Meraki thing. Pretty much everything I'm talking about exists in both platforms. Sometimes it's just easier for me to point out one platform or the other, and that from a demonstration standpoint, okay? We will talk a little about integration into cloud control for those different platforms and how that's progressing and that kind of stuff, okay? So AIRM's been around for a while, and why is that important, right? It used to be that you always had a trade-off of basically fidelity, which meant you would do constant updates on your network, or disruptions, because when you did those updates, you'd get disruptions in your network. And so there was never kind of a good spot to be at, right? Well, with AIRM, what we've done now is the AI is effectively learning all day long what the best solutions would be. We're building weights, we're going through these machine learning algorithms, and then we can select a period which you configure, or the system can configure it for you, which is the off-peak busy hours. And it's going to make those changes then during the off-peak busy hours that are optimal for the busy hours, right? So that's a huge change now. The numbers of disruptions are much lower. The performance of the network is much better. And if you've got Catalyst Center, or you've got Meraki and you haven't implemented this yet, we should definitely talk, because this is a big benefit that you got, and it's kind of yours for the taking, right? I'm going to show you just a real brief demo around this, because I think this is kind of interesting. We've had this for a little while now, probably about 6-8 months. But this is the ability for I'm going to show you it on Meraki dashboard, but again, you can do this on Catalyst Center, where it actually determines, hey, there's problems, and it automatically captures packets for you, and then it can use AI to do the analysis on the packets, right? We're going to talk a little bit about AI Assistant. Now, there's different kinds of AI Assistant. The first thing I'm going to show you is AI Assistant on a platform. So if you remember at the very beginning, I said we're looking at specific platform stuff right now, right? So we're looking at, in particular, I'm going to look at the dashboard, but again, there's an AI Assistant for the for Catalyst Center. And if you don't have it on your Catalyst Center, you can get it. Again, just reach out to your SE and we can help you get that sorted out to make sure you have AI Assistant for your Catalyst Center. All right, and that's true for most of these other platforms, right? So whether you're talking about Thousand Eyes or whether you're talking about Intersight, any of these platforms all have their own AI Assistant built into the platform itself, all right? Now, I'm going to show you one thing in particular that I like about AI Assistant. Sure, it's good from a diagnostic standpoint and all that kind of stuff, but I've kind of relegated all that now to cloud control, because that's my one-stop shop for being able to troubleshoot in my network, because now I can use all the information from my network. And I'm going to show you an example of how I can effectively click on an issue in my network, and it will actually boil down and go through different domains and determine what that domain is that's causing the problem. Even though this was, let's say, a wireless indication, maybe this was actually a switching problem that caused it, right? So, and in this case, we're going to look at one other thing here, which is one of the methods for agentic workflows is something called workflows. And workflows is kind of a toolbox, and I can use that toolbox to integrate with all sorts of stuff. I can integrate with Catalyst Center. I can integrate with the dashboard. I can integrate with Nexus. There's all sorts of stuff. I can integrate with other AI agents, right? So maybe I want, or other LLMs, right? If I want to integrate with Claude or something like that, right? I can pull data in off of my tools and then push it off to Claude if I wanted to use Claude for something, for example, right? So that's the power of the workflows capability. Now, I don't want to confuse this, because we're talking about agentic workflows here with workflows. we're also going to have agentic agent development specific to Catalyst Center, where we can build agents that will sit in your network, collect data, and then warn you about things that are happening. So it's almost like little sentries in your network, if you will, that are constantly monitoring your network and then reporting to you that you build and develop for your applications. Okay. All right. But this is much more comprehensive. This is across the various platforms. This is, like I said, it kind of goes beyond just building agents. This is, you can take code, you can do integrate in with any of your existing automation tools, right? So Ansible, for example, if you like to use that. Okay. All right, then we're going to go to the platform. So I'm going to take just a second. I just want to go through a quick example of what I was talking about with the automatic packet capture. Okay. All right. So this is, and again, I'm just going to use the dashboard as my example here. Let me see if I can make this just a little bit bigger so you guys don't have to look at the ocean there behind it and feel like you should be outside. All right. So if you look at this dashboard, all right, this is the assurance dashboard. What would you think from a wireless standpoint is the issue? All right. And I don't know if I can get feedback or not, so I'll just kind of, I'll go ahead and jump to the conclusion. But hopefully you can all see this button right here, this red highlighted DHCP, right? And by the way, this is just my lab. And so you're going to see I created some problems. As I mentioned, my family loves me because I break their network a lot. So I created some problems just before that, so I could show you kind of how this works, right? So I created an issue where the client could not reach the DHCP server, right? So it says no DHCP response, and it's saying that 87% of my issues are related to DHCP. Now, I also have another network on here called Loki that runs open roaming, but open roaming sometimes has a little bit of latency. Plus, it's a lot of walk-by clients and that sort of stuff because it's in my lab in the building, and so you'll see a lot of authentication issues with that. So I'm always seeing some authentication issues, but obviously DHCP is my primary one. And if I go over here to the clients, I can see which clients are having issues. It tells me the type of client, the username, that kind of stuff. So if I just click on any one of these, right, it'll take me to that particular client. All right, and then you see these little boxes here with the little stars. The stars mean it's collected packets for me. All right. And the numbers there meant that there was more than one event. So if I click on one of these, right, it'll take me through and I can now just look at the PCAP analysis. Now I can get a more thorough PCAP analysis. In fact, I can get an analysis on a Wireshark view that lets me do all the same filtering on Wireshark and that kind of stuff, which by the way, that's another good use of the AI assistant I'm going to show you in a second. But you can see here very quickly, it shows you kind of the whole process, the packet flow, what's going on, where it's breaking down here, right? So I sent out a discover, sent out a discover, sent out a discover, got no response, right? So got no offers. So you can see very quickly that I've got a problem, and then I can come up here and say, okay, what are the suggested actions? Now I know what the problem was, right? Because I actually created the problem, right? But it says check network connectivity, server reachability, confirm the DHCP service is running on the server for the VLAN, validate. That is exactly what the problem was. All right, so it has determined based on the packet capture. One of the possible solutions here, one of two, is exactly the right problem. Okay, so one other thing we mentioned was AI Assistant here, right? So if I open up AI Assistant here, or maybe it's, let's try this. There we go. All right, so I ran this ahead of time. Okay, you remember we talked about something called workflows. When we think of operation or kind of that self-managing network, we don't think of this as sort of AI going out and making willy-nilly changes in your network. We think you can build tools through the use of AI that you can then invoke based on the right decisions. And so AI can even help you decide which tools to use and that kind of stuff, but it can also help you write these tools. So this particular workflow, I didn't write it. I told AI Assistant what I wanted it to do, it created the workflow for me. Just like you can vibe code, I can do this same kind of thing with workflows. And this exists today, right? And you're going to see this a second and again when we get into cloud control, but I just want to introduce this here, right? So, and so I said, hey, can you run this workflow to gather the switches from my Catalyst Center? Now, first thing you're going to say is, wait a minute, you're on your Meraki dashboard and you're getting stuff from your Catalyst Center? Yeah, right. In fact, I can hit the global overview button at the top and you'll see all my Catalyst Center assets also, right? But that's not the point of this discussion, right? So so I said, yep, run that first one, right? And grab that one. Notice it also said, hey, I've got a few other things in something called an exchange. Think of this like the Apple App Store for workflows. So there's a bunch of workflows that are already pre-built, right? So I can click on this and have it look at these workflows that are pre-built to see if it matches my need even better. But I had the one I'm looking for, so it ran it, right? And I had to answer a few questions. Again, human in the loop, but automation driven by results from AI, okay? So it goes off and it collects this. And then I get this, I wrote this to just give me a bunch of raw data, right? So it's just a bunch of JSON data here in this output, all right? But the reason I wrote that is because I want to show you the other way I can use the tool, right? So then I said, okay, I used workflows to generate all this gobbledygook, right? So can you make sense of it, Mr. AI, right? So AI assistant, can you make sense of this? Give me a table of all the switches and the switch versions, the software versions that are on those switches. And so I produced this table, all right? And so you can see I did all this stuff like an hour before we started here, right? So I've been in IEEE meetings all day, and so I didn't have a lot of time to prepare. But but you can see this is super powerful now because not only can I use the AI assistant to generate workflows, I can use the AI assistant to analyze the results from the workflows that were generated by AI, right? So again, self-healing, yes, but we want a human in the loop for that. Okay. All right. So we're going to go back to the presentation for a second. Let's go back here. All right. That was on specific platforms, right? And I could have shown you a presentation around Intersight. I could have showed you around Thousand Eyes. They all have similar types of integrations and similar types of AI assistants built in. Okay. Now comes that next generation. And this was introduced about a year ago. All right. And it was introduced initially as something called AI Canvas. And you can see that's kind of in the center of the chart here. AI Canvas was designed to be able to take across all the Cisco domains and reason and solve issues across all domains. So now I can see, hey, there was an outage in my edge router that caused clients to drop on my access points, for example, right? So I have that ability to reason now across all these different domains. But that was great on its own. But now what we've done is put that into a wrapper, what we call cloud control, which now has the ability to access all of these platforms directly. So just like you saw me in the Meraki dashboard a second ago, I can get to the Meraki dashboard through cloud control. Now, today it's cross-launching, but very shortly, this will all be running natively inside of cloud control. So it is a single app that runs all of these different platforms. So you can see things like Meraki, Intersight, Splunk. We're going to talk this afternoon about Cisco IQ and how that fits in with this this overall agentic workflows. So I think this is that integration of the products is very important. But then the other thing that we have, and we're going to look at this live here in a second, is the ability to look across all of these different domains at, besides using, say, like the AI Assistant, AI Canvas, I can look at my inventory and I can query things using AI language, if you will, and just say, hey, give me a list of all my servers or whatever, right? And it will do that in my inventory. I can see topology, drill down on it across all of my different Cisco products, right? Okay. And again, we're going to look at this in a second. I'm not going to go into all this. This is just, I just want to put this up here so you can kind of see the different use cases. If there's one in particular that you're interested in, I'll give you a second to kind of look at this. But I got asked the other day, for example, if I have Cisco Cloud Control, would it tell me if I'm having an issue in my WebEx Cloud, my WebEx Control? And the answer is yes, right? So it has that interface into WebEx Control Hub. So, all right, Cisco products that are being integrated directly. I showed you a list of them a second ago, but let's talk about a couple of different things here in particular. Most of these are already integrated to some degree or another. If you're a Catalyst Center user, you're not going to find it yet. All right, Catalyst Center is slated for fourth quarter of this year, calendar year, first quarter for us from a company standpoint. So it is coming. Most of the rest of this is already integrated to some degree or another on cloud control. All right. And the primary gating factor for this is having all of the MCP servers, the Model Context Protocol servers in play that will allow the LLMs or the agents to be able to reach out and directly interface with the different platforms, right? So that's that interface between the platforms and the LLMs. All right, this one is coming. I can't show you a whole lot about it just yet, but this is the one I was telling you about a minute ago. It launches literally next week on the 22nd. But this is the ability to build agents and apps. Now, again, this is specific to cloud control, whereas when we talked about the workflows, it's kind of across all the different platforms. It doesn't have to be launched from cloud control. It doesn't have to be agentic even, right? It can be ported in some of the existing workflows that you have. So, but this gives you the ability to have those different tools that you customize for your application. And maybe this is something that would say interface with ServiceNow and look for certain things to alert you of early on. Maybe it's a button you create your own agent that would go off and pull certain data from I'll just talk about ServiceNow. Pull certain data from ServiceNow while so that way you don't have to like cull through everything. You can get this very specific information you're looking for, right? An app builder is similar to that, but you're building apps instead of agents. The other thing that's happening now is as you build these apps, you can then put them on a marketplace. So just like we talked about with workflows, there's a marketplace for these apps. So also that means third parties can build apps for their products, right? So we've got a huge integration that's in process right now. And I'll show you, we get live an example of this with a bunch of third-party stuff, right? And so this is absolutely important. It was probably not the focus initially, but this has become something that's very important. One of the things, I put this in here because I get asked a lot, hey, am I training the AI? Am I training the agents and stuff like that with my data? The answer is absolutely not. All right. Now, you have local context for your application. You will have local context. So if you ask it a question and then you ask it another question, that whole memory is there, but it's only accessible to you. Now, that can affect how we basically prompt the LLM, but we're not using that data to actually train the LLM. All right. That training is done with very specific set of data in a very specific way. But having all this information up front with that memory allows you to be able to ask questions with context, right? So that is in there. And then, of course, as always, we encrypt the data on the servers. It's all hosted in the US and SOC 2 and all that kind of stuff. So the most important slide out of all this, right? No new cost. So yes, you have to have licenses for your existing product, but you'll notice it says both Essentials and Advantage tiers, right? So we're not saying, hey, you have to have, this only works for Advantage. It's no new cost, okay? And finally, the other thing to do is you can sign up for this today, all right? So don't hesitate to go off. It's cloud.cisco.com. And you will be asked to put in a username and fill in some information, tell us what you want to integrate. Now, all of the onboarding all the customer onboarding we're doing is one at a time, and it's done with the BU handholding. So be patient. It's not like you can get this and it'll automatically, as soon as you fill this in, you'll get access to cloud control. You'll get on a list. Eventually, we'll get to the point where we feel comfortable enough that we've been through enough onboardings that we can kind of open this up to the world. But for now, just know you're on the list, and we'll get to you as quickly as possible. Okay? All right, let's go to the real McCoy. All right, so here we are on cloud control. And so the first thing I'm going to say is you can see I come up, and this is the home page, and I'm here at the assistant. Now, remember we looked at the assistant previously for Meraki dashboard. This assistant is much more comprehensive. It covers all of the different platforms, right? So when I ask a question here, I'm not asking a question specific to Meraki dashboard or Catalyst Center or Thousand Eyes or whatever, right? I'm asking a question to all of them. Okay. All right, we're going to come back to this view in a second, this kind of home view in a second, but I want to show you kind of the overall that. We call this the 9 dots. So if you click on the 9 dots at the top, and you can see there's a handful of things here across the top also, but we have 2 different things, the platform services and then the product development. And there's some apps you can build. This is if you build your apps and that kind of stuff, you can put them over here. We're not going to spend a lot of time there today. But the first thing I'm going to go into is, where'd it go? Show one more. There we go. It was hiding. I'm going to take you to the admin console. All right. And I know this sounds really boring, but just a few minutes of discussion here, I think is worthwhile. First of all, when you get on cloud control, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to authenticate with some service that you have from Cisco, right? So this might be a security dashboard. This might be your Meraki dashboard. This might be your Catalyst Center, whatever you got, right? You're going to authenticate, and that gives us users, all right? Then once we get users, we can create something called tenants, all right? And tenants basically define what these users would get access to. So it's groups of capability, right? So maybe I logged on with my Meraki dashboard, but I want to give I want to make sure I also have access to Splunk and the security dashboard and Thousand Eyes and all that kind of stuff. So we create these groups of tenants. So when I log in, even though I'm using my existing, let's say, Meraki dashboard to log in, credentials, I get access to all of this stuff. I don't have to relog in every time to every one of these, all right? And then beyond that, we can have different domains and different identity providers. So you can create your own logins and that kind of stuff. And then this gives me integration into other products that maybe aren't native to Catalyst Center. I'm sorry, to Cloud Control. Okay, so let's go back to the 9 dots again. All right, so we talked about workflows. I showed you an example of some workflows a second ago. I'm not going to spend any time here, but just know I can also launch from workflows here. So again, I just kind of want to put this together for a second, right? So let's say you come in at the beginning of the day, you pick up your cup of coffee, and I'm still drinking coffee today, so you know it's going to be a long day. But you come up, you pick up your cup of coffee, and you say, okay, what do I need to do? All right. There are 2 things that you're going to look at. One is you can come in here and be a little bit more proactive and look at any of your dashboards that you want in here. You can come in here and look at your inventory, for example. Topology is a good one, right? So you can come in here and look at your topology, and you'll be able to see things like, hey, these sites have issues. And then you can click down on those sites and get more information about those sites, what the issue is, and that sort of stuff. Right? So, excuse me, I can keep drilling down from a topology standpoint. I may want to look at my inventory, right? And so from an inventory standpoint, now I get all kinds of insights just natively when I open the dashboard up here. But in addition to that, if I see this little button up here, if I click on this, it gives me a list now, right? And so like I can see, and this is where I can use AI to search, right? So I can say things like, show me all my servers. Okay. Now, I don't think it's going to show it to me. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So it did. used to have a little button that popped up. And this is actually a live instance, right? This is not a scripted demo or anything like that, right? This is totally, there's no safety net here. So if something crashes, my apologies up front. But you can see all my servers, right? So, and I didn't say, I didn't have to search for anything. I didn't have to have any specific search criteria. I just use AI to find. Now I could do filters and that kind of stuff for that particular thing. But I could also say, hey, show me show me assets with P-certs, critical P-certs, right? So now it shows me which ones have critical P-certs. And this is going to become more and more important. And you'll see how this kind of integrates in with IQ, Cisco IQ here shortly, right? To be able to keep all of your equipment up to speed from a security standpoint, right? Because these vulnerabilities now are going to come at you much faster than they used to because of AI. Again, we take the good at the bad, right? We have new tools that we can use to manage things, but bad guys also have new tools they can use to hack things, right? So, okay. I lost my cursor here. All right. So that's again, let me just click on this real quick so you can kind of see what the marketplace looks like, right? So you can see all of these different things that exist already as a part of this that are, different things. Here's Jamf integration here. I'll be honest with you, I've gone through zero of these other than just maybe looking at the list. I haven't had time to sort of launch into any of these, but you can see the diversity here already of applications, third-party applications that are in this marketplace, okay? And then we have the products. So we looked at the Meraki dashboard a second ago, so I'm not going to go there, but you could certainly do things like, let's see what else we have here. Like I'm going to save IQ for later because we've got some of it's going to go into IQ in particular. But let's look at Intersight, for example, right? So I can see all kinds of information here about my servers, the status of my servers, maybe I'm looking for power draw, all sorts of information about the health of my data center networks, right? So all from the same dashboard that I was able to look at the stuff I'm Meraki on, right? All from the same dashboard that I can look at my stuff for my security information on, right? So if I look at this, right? So for example, this is kind of actually where it all started in the security cloud control, right? Then it moved, and actually the chief product officer used to run security at G2, and he was kind of the visionary behind security cloud control. When he became the chief product officer of Cisco, he then moved this into Cisco Cloud Control and is now moving, just like in the past, all of the security applications have moved under Secure Cloud Control. They've all moved under Cloud Control or Cisco Cloud Control. All right, so I can see things in here. Maybe if I want to look at things about my AI defense, for example, and see how what kind of vulnerabilities do I have from an AI standpoint? What LLMs am I like here? Are my users using? Is there potential issues with this? And I can keep drilling down by clicking on this. And again, I'm not here to go through the security products, so I'm not going to go through a lot of detail on this. But again, I'm in that same dashboard, right? So I came in this morning, like we said, I got my cup of coffee. I've looked at my security status. I've looked at my Meraki, my networking status, my enterprise networking status. I've looked at my servers, data center, all that kind of stuff. I haven't left this one tool yet, right? I'm still in this one tool. So this is what I think of as more proactive. I'm looking at things in my network. I'm thinking about, hey, how are things looking? Do I need to be running low on capacity here? Do I need to be thinking about making changes? All right. Let's go back to that first view that we had a second ago. This is there we go. This is when you first come in, it looks like this. And there's lots of things I can click on here. Well, I'm not going to do that right now. Probably the first thing you're going to want to do. So got my cup of coffee this morning. Maybe I've looked at a few dashboards just to see, if there's anything that I want to be concerned about. Then I click on this, and this is going to show me the issues in the network, right? And so now I can come in here and I can click on one of these, and it will go off and start troubleshooting this. All right. So I clicked on this. I think this is the one I clicked on. Yeah. Excuse me. I clicked on this earlier today. Again, right around noon, right? And it went off and started doing troubleshooting for me, right? And then it said, well, hey, I don't know for sure what the problem here is yet, but I think, would you like me to check the offline status connected clients for this AP? And I, in all my troubleshooting wisdom, I could conjure up, I said yes. Right. So again, and the reason why I make light of that is not everybody in your operation is always an experienced engineer. Right. Now I have found sometimes it is good to lead these, and we'll look at this a little bit more when we get into Canvas, but I have found sometimes it's important to kind of get out in front of the AI and say, hey, I need you to start looking at this, right? But sometimes it's okay just to let it kind of walk through what it wants to do, right? So I went through and it looked at, so now it says here, I have a consolidated picture. I'm seeing some port flaps. I'm seeing some STP root bridges not configured. And it says, would you like me to dig into the specific port flap issues? And my infinite wisdom, I said yes, right? And so it goes back and it looks at the information on the particular access point where it's flapping at the uplink switch. And that's saying, would you like me to check for broader network health issues? Sure, whatever, right? So I'm really not doing anything that's really that amazing at this point, right? Now I switched into sort of like, okay, I have a CCIE. Let's pretend like we actually know what a VLAN is here, and said, okay, can you check the switch port the AP is connected to? Please look at that switch for PoE and any policies that would apply to that switch port this AP is connected to. So it goes off and it looks at that particular switch. Again, could I do this with a bunch of show run pipe configs? And could I do this with some going into different dashboards? Sure, I could. Or I could just ask the question of exactly the data I want, right? So then it comes down and says, okay, root cause summary. Root cause, upstream instability cascaded to AP reachability reachability loss. So what's happening is I'm having flapping in my network on leaf 1 and 2. Now I could continue to dig into what's causing the flapping and all that sort of stuff. That's causing a wireless problem. Okay. Now, I didn't have to go anywhere, right? I just basically said, yeah, finally, like I said, at some point I was like, okay, I want to ask it a very specific question. So I asked it a very specific question. Now, at the top, there's this button called Collaborate in Canvas. So what's the difference between, I'm an AI assistant right now, but what's the difference between AI assistant and Canvas? Okay. Canvas, again, remember, is where we started this journey. So what Canvas is doing for us is, Canvas is giving us a place that we can put all of our existing troubleshooting diagnostics into one tab. So I'm going to click on this one. This was exactly what you saw a minute ago, right? But now it's in Canvas. All right. Now it's not that interesting here at this point because I don't really have anything in Canvas here. But I could say something like, could you give me a list of all the APs in my organization? All right, and then hopefully it'll create a list that I can populate here, but I'm not going to wait for this. We'll come back to this in a second. And it's important to understand a couple of things when you deal with this. One is sometimes it doesn't, I don't see it hallucinating, but sometimes it will tell you, I don't know, when it really should know. All right. And so sometimes you have to work with context and really give it more context. So there's a bit of work to do sometimes to get it to answer the question you're looking for, right? So there we go. So you can see it just created the table, showed me all my access points that I have in my organization, gives me the IP address, MAC address, the model, all of that sort of stuff. I could ask. Now, if I click in this, I can ask questions about this table. Right, so you notice this highlight pops up down here. So now I can ask questions. The reason why I like Canvas is I can hit this share button over here, right? So now once I hit the share button, I can now invite my colleagues to this. So maybe I'm not a firewall expert. I know a little bit about firewalls, but you wouldn't want me to run your firewall networks, but you probably have somebody that is really good at firewalls. Well, you can now invite them to this and say, hey, I'm having an issue here with this particular AP, and I've got this flapping going on here. Do you think this might be a firewall issue? And they could start asking questions about the firewall here. Same context, same everything. So now you're working jointly with your colleagues on this particular problem. Okay, so that's one way that we can use this. We can use this to troubleshoot issues. And again, we pick this issue as one of the things that's popped up from the actions. Okay, all right, I'm going to go back to create new. So we can just get back to the dashboard again, go back to Canvas. And I did one other thing. I went up here and I clicked on this wireless up here, right? Just to see, hey, this one is maybe a little bit more proactive now instead of reactive. Show me what's going on in my network, right? Show me what, and you can tell I'm more enterprise network focused, but I could have clicked on one of them that said, the data center stuff or the security stuff or we'll go back and look at those here in a second. So it's going to give me all these different cards and information about what's going on in my network. Now, one of the things that's interesting is it actually lists these outages, right? So it comes in and says, hey, here's these APs are bouncing up and down, and here's where they're bouncing up and down. Now, I didn't try to troubleshoot here because I was troubleshooting in another network, but it was showing me things about channel utilization, client density, just some real basic information, top clients in my network, some real basic information about the condition of my network. All right, so that's nice because I mean, if you go back, let's go back to that assistant again. Go back to create new. Go back to Canvas. You can see all of the different things. I could just ask for the health. Here's my security. Here's my data center. Right? Maybe I want to know something about my inventory. All of that type of information is available to me right here. Okay. All right. I'm going to pause because I've gone for a pretty good while here without any questions. Any questions on what you've seen so far or anything you'd like to see more of? More details on?
The only question we had so far was, will it be recorded? And I let them know that it is being recorded and we'll send the recording out later, but there are no other questions.
Okay. Cool. All right. I mean, do you guys, so question, I'm just going to throw it out here just for a little, give me some feedback a little bit. When you see something like this, do you look at it and go, yeah, not so much for me? Or do you look at it and go, yeah, I think this would be useful?
Al, I have a question if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer to this, so please if you share. I know that we're primarily focused on onboarding our Cisco solutions into Cloud Control and AI Canvas first, but are there any plans on the roadmap for like a ticketing system like Jira or ServiceNow integration?
That's what this is right here. So in the marketplace, there's the ServiceNow integration. So I don't have a ServiceNow account, so I've not tried this, but all of this stuff already exists. Our our partners have gone off and built this already. So a bunch of stuff exists. Now, do we have this integrated into the workflows, if you will, from an agentic workflow standpoint? No, right? But can I query information from it? Yes. So, and that's really the next step, is to be able to integrate this, because when we do like when you think of Canvas, that's built on a set of MCP servers that have skills and agents that know how to ask for those skills, and then know how to take that data from the MCP server and massage it into something that the LLM can then give you the results of, right? But so over time, we'll have to develop more of the workflow. But this is already, I mean, there's integration here, right, with that. And you can query this kind of stuff from these marketplace tools. So great question.
Excellent. Thank you, Al.
Yeah, no. So I'm just curious. All right. So for those of you in the room, we're just going to, just because I got to have some feedback. So for those of you in the room, if you feel like this is something you would consider as a useful tool, just raise your hand. I just want to see first. Okay.
Yeah. There we we go.
Okay.
We just
So-
recently got, just we don't know what's going on, so that's why, if I know nothing. Yeah.
I missed that. What was that? What was the comment?
I mean, like I said, like we recently got under the room, so I really don't know like anything, so that's why I didn't raise my hand.
We appreciate his enthusiasm. He just got here and raised his hand. So that's go ahead doing that.
Okay.
Brian has been here from the beginning. You know, Brian, your thoughts?
It looks good from what I can see. And I think the one thing that kind of stood out so far is the Canvas part where people can collaborate. So
Yeah.
my staff, they're doing this all the time, and it could be good, especially if they're not paying attention to all tools. But the agentic part of this, the AI part of this, can bring that into the conversation because it's literally the tab bar. So this is like something you paste over on top of all of that. And I suffer from this too. I mean, I might have a couple favorite tabs, but then there's a couple other tools we have that, in essence, falling asleep. This can unify that and say, hey, I've got this from, say, Thousand Eyes, and we're seeing this started last night at 9:30. And it's not apparent in, some other tool I'm looking at, but I think that's a very powerful tool, especially when the humans are involved collaborating.
Did you get all that out?
Yeah, no, and Brian, I really appreciate when you said that about the collaboration. I think a lot of people don't get how powerful that is.
That's awesome.
For me, when this tool was first introduced about a year ago, and we talked about Canvas.
Yeah, in that next dashboard. All those we can control in one centralized tool.
Sorry.
No, go
Sorry,
ahead.
trying to catch him up a little bit.
Again.
Okay, so when we talk about Canvas, when G2 first introduced Canvas, I was in the middle of, I just created a RagChain model to take a bunch of data from a wireless LAN controller from a big stadium, and I was trying to assess the data using at that time it was Gemini, and figure out like which ones had the most coupling and where could I get the most value for making changes and all that kind of stuff. And I built this whole RagChain model to do that. And it started producing some really interesting results. Well, I was elaborate, right? So I was really excited about it. So I said, okay, I need to share this with somebody. And it was like, wait a minute. It's like, I never thought about this. Like, how am I going to share this with somebody? It's like, I got to give you all my code. I got to give you all my prompts. I got to coach you on how to use this. It's like, so when G2 showed this Canvas and said, no, we can collaborate like this, I was like, yeah, this solves that kind of problem, right? Sure, I could go off and build a RagChain model. Sure, I could go off and do this analysis. That was cool, right? But the best I could do is take some screenshots to show you my results, right? And so having this collaborative tool where you can input things, I can input things, it's huge. And so I appreciate you saying that, because I think some people kind of miss the value of that. And for me, that was the first thing that popped out when we saw this, right? So.
Yeah, I'd echo that idea with AI in general. Like, I think I forget who said it. Someone recently says that AI makes you better at the things you're really good at. But it's not necessarily helping you develop skills that you don't have. But there's an opportunity to collaborate a bunch of experts that have raised their ability to do what they're good at is really powerful for the organization. So a lot of stuff that would suck up time from you, you don't have to do that anymore. You can use AI to do that. You're now getting to your best faster, and you're getting with a bunch of other people in a space that are at their best as well. I think it's really exciting.
Yeah. Well, I better exit stage left here. I'm taking over the time slot for the Cisco IQ already. So, man, I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you for spending the time with us. Hopefully this is informative, and don't hesitate to sign up, right? Like I said, you may not get a response right away, but it is kind of a first come, first serve. So if you don't sign up, the one thing I'll guarantee is if you don't sign up, you won't get access. If you do, you'll get access. You get access based on what products you have, again, based on time and based on what products you have. and there's no additional fee for it. All right, we're not charging token costs or anything like that, or anything. So it's a great tool to have. So, okay. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Al. Appreciate
Thank
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right, so I hope everybody enjoyed that. Cloud control is revolutionary. It truly is. It's changing the way that you administer your environment every day. It's letting you use the human in the loop idea, driving human insight, giving guidance to computer precision, moving at machine speed. It's going to elevate you and your capabilities every single day so that you can become more proactive instead of reactive. With that, let's move over to Cisco IQ. And I'd like to introduce to you Jackie Cornells.
Hi, nice to meet you all. Sorry I couldn't be there in person today. Al, you did a lovely job of keeping everything a surprise for me when I get to do my demo. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I try.
So just based off of what Al said, he gave a little sneak peek, but what Cisco IQ is think more of the CX side, the long-term strategic, more support side of cloud control. So Cisco IQ, as you saw, integrates into cloud control. I could talk more about that, or I could actually tell you what the heck Cisco IQ actually is. So we'll get into that. But I usually tend to just hop right into the demo, but since we're doing a one-to-many today, I'm going to want to go over some slides real quick. But at a high level, if we're talking about CX services, again, what we're talking about are our Cisco support. So that's going to be, we've rebranded, but the legacy names you might be familiar with are SmartNet, SuccessTrack, Solution Support. So our software, hardware, and solution support is Cisco support. That gives you access to TAC, and along those lines, just your basic hardware and software support. Next is our Cisco professional services, and that's going to be your transactional, consulting, time-bound, subscription services. Legacy names include BCS, LCS, but that's what we're looking at in terms of the CX portfolio today. And all of this is really going to be powered by AI expertise via Cisco IQ. So again, this is Cisco IQ is going to be the way you're going to interact with Cisco from a support standpoint to do more, say, long-term analysis, manual reporting, looking at LDOS, proactive, reactive security. And I think this slide shows it pretty well what Cisco IQ is really going to help with. So as cloud controls kind of that pane of glass across your entire topology, we're doing the same thing with your support and all the different content and materials and ways you interact with Cisco from a support perspective. For example, PCerts, troubleshooting guides, field notices, documentation, compliance checks. In the past, that's all been fragmented. Yes, we've had other platforms and such to have that, but again, you have your separate BU platforms. You have Catalyst Center, that's separate from Meraki, that's separate from WebEx, etc. So what we did is we kind of took all of the ways we help support you and consolidated into Cisco IQ. And really, when we refine these, that's when we get predictive asset insights, adaptive infrastructure assessments, AI-powered troubleshooting, and personalized learning. With that, you get benefits along the lines of what we see on the right side. So understanding your Cisco IT landscape, prevent outages and disruptions by knowing what's always on, getting notified, being proactive via agentic features, boosting innovation, and staying on top of transformative initiatives. Little sneak peek into Cisco IQ before we get into the live demo. This was released April 24th. Not sure if you saw any of the keynotes in regards to Cisco Live, but we did show this and do a brief demo to really show the value our customers can get from it. But because it was released April 24th, we have 3 very solidified applications available right now. We do have a major release coming out at the end of July where we'll have more features available, and ones continue to roll out within the next 6 months and especially year as well. But the 3 applications we're looking at right now in terms of Cisco IQ are assets, assessments, and support. With assets, think about up-to-date visibility across all of your assets in regard to things in terms of LDOS, contract information, etc. Assessments is going to be reactive and proactive security. That's where your pre-certs are going to live, as well as some of the Cisco best practice assessments, which were highlighted a lot in Cisco Live. Very excited to show you those. I think they're very cool and very helpful as they take Cisco's best practices and measure them against your actual devices. Finally, this is where we're going to be managing your TAC cases. So you can escalate cases, you can manage your cases, RMAs, request engineers, etc. And the final thing I want to say is Cisco IQ has 3 different deployment models. We can talk about this later on if we want, just skimming it over real quick. Right now, the only one that's available is SaaS, so it will be a cloud-based application. But we do acknowledge that, there are some customers more on the public sector side who are going to need, say, a air-gapped or a tethered environment. So we are currently planning our air-gapped EFT very soon. And with that, that will mean we'll have again, air-gapped environment, no need to connect to the cloud if your organization requires that no cloud connection. So with that, I'm going to hop into my live demo. I could keep talking about it, but it's much cooler to see. It kind of talks for itself. But like unlike cloud control, this is actually available for you today. And sorry, Al, but like no wait list in that sense. You can go to iq.cisco.com and create your account. And again, what I would wait to maybe do that till you read our Getting Started guide, which is available up here. So say once you log in, you want to set up, our Getting Started guide will walk you through how to set up properly, how to get data ingested, and I'll go over some of those steps today as well. But when we log in, this is going to be what you see. This is my demo environment via Cisco. So all the data you're going to see is from our test environment right now in Santa Clara. So what we can see is all those applications we saw on the slide. I can click into each one. But what I want to show you first is the different Cisco support tiers that we can see. So very important to note, Cisco IQ is not a separate subscription. It's not a separate payment. It's tied to your Cisco support, and it's included with your Cisco support contracts. So whether that's SmartNet, solution support, success tracks, whatever entitlement you have on an asset will determine what features it has access to in IQ. Again, this basic standard signature is not a separate subscription, not a separate entitlement. It's tied directly to your entitlement on your assets for Cisco support. Again, I mentioned we have gone through a bit of renaming and consolidation. Basic is going to be where SmartNet and Swiss Basic were consolidated into. The offers have not changed. They've just been consolidated. Standard is going to be Success Tracks, Solution Support, and what was the other? Swiss Premium. And then Standard is going to be your Expert Care and Success Tracks Level 2. So again, no separate subscription, no separate entitlement. It's tied to the Cisco support you have on a per asset level. With that said, as you can see, it's by asset. So we have about 728 in the demo environment on Basic, over 1,000 on Standard, 600 on Signature. As we can see, as you move up the different support tiers, you do get more features within Cisco IQ, especially when it comes to agentic AI and more in-depth insights. And especially those assessments I mentioned, the best practice ones, are available starting for assets on the Standard and Signature level. So again, high level, this is the features we're looking at. And anything with the blue star, if you see a blue star anywhere alongside this demo, that means that was AI generated. We make it very transparent throughout the process. As well, if you are interested in things regarding our AI transparency technical note, our supported property list or offer disclosure, that will go over more information in regards to how data is stored and used. I will also talk a bit about more of that throughout the demo. But before I launch into features, any questions in regards to Cisco IQ so far?
No questions yet?
Perfect. So let's get started with the assets. So as we can see here, this is going to be a snapshot across our IP of what we're looking at in terms of our assets and subcomponents. This does ingest both covered and uncovered assets, so it doesn't need to have a support contract in order to show up in IQ. This dashboard is very customizable based on a user basis. So whoever creates the IQ account will be the super user admin, but that super user can add other people, either Cisco or non-Cisco, internal to your company, to either be viewers or administrators. So you do have that role-based there. So I mentioned customization. So again, we can have saved filters per user. So say if I have my own filter saved and Blake has his own filter saved, I will see mine. It will make sure when I log in, this homepage is with my saved filters, so I don't have to filter every time I come in. Other thing is, this is very easy to customize in terms of dragging and dropping all these different tiles. Same if I'm a network engineer, a security network engineer, I might care more about security advisories more than I care about, the LDOS snapshot, for example. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but if you're familiar with CX Cloud in the past, this actually is going to be our next evolution. I forgot to mention that in the beginning of the PowerPoint. So why we've moved to Cisco IQ is, as Al mentioned before, threats are becoming more complex. Downtime is more expensive than ever. You need to be up and running, constantly checking things. CX Cloud was the way you interacted with us from a support perspective in the past. And if we wanted to integrate those features into that platform, we would have had to just put a blanket over it. Instead, to really make sure it was at the core of the interface, engineering and product management created Cisco IQ instead. CX Cloud and Cisco IQ will run in parallel until there's more feature parity with CX Cloud. For example, Cisco IQ doesn't currently have a learning portal right now, but adding contextual learning will be coming in a future release. But I mentioned that because I say we've really expanded the filter options in CX Cloud in terms of what you can narrow down by. And again, a key thing I love to mention, I've mentioned it already, is relevancy. It's really easy to make Cisco IQ relevant on a per user basis to make sure they are quickly being able to see things, quickly able to perform the actions they need, get the insights they need. But some of the filters I'd like to highlight include last signal date. So again, this will, via our connector, which I'll go over in a few minutes, we can find both covered and uncovered assets across the network, including devices that may no longer be active. So with that last signal date, make sure that we are viewing assets that are currently talking to Cisco on the network and are currently active. What a signal is measured by is the last time that device opened a attack case, telemetry was shared, or the contract to that device on was renewed. And we can make sure we're viewing that within the last 30 days, half year, 2 years, and more. Next thing I want to go over, which is probably something going through your head right now, is how is data ingested and where does the data come from? So there are a few ways to get data into Cisco IQ, and you might see some familiar faces down in this drop-down list. The first way to get data into Cisco IQ would be when you're creating your account. If you currently have a CX Cloud account, you'll be asked if you want to migrate the data from CX Cloud to Cisco IQ. It will not remove the data from CX Cloud. It will just make a copy of that data and put it over into Cisco IQ, but that is an option when you first log in. The next, say if you're not sharing all of your telemetry in CX Cloud, the next option would be to upload contracts manually, and that would get the static contract information uploaded. Next would be via the BE controllers. So that's going to be your Intersight, WebEx, Meraki. Since those are cloud-based since those are web-based applications, you'll be able. Oh, and I will ask your question live in a second because I just missed it. But in terms of the BE controller, since they're web-based applications, you will be able to get that data via cloud. The final way, and we suggest the most suggested way to go about this, is the Cisco IQ link, which is the evolution of the CX agent. So it is our connector that will bridge Catalyst Center as well as device discovery into Cisco IQ. And as well with that, if you have more questions about the IQ link, there is a getting started guide for IQ link within here. Additionally, again, it's just it's an OVA file you'll download that sets up an on-premise VM. And Owen, I'd love to, if you could ask your question live. I missed it in the chat.
Yeah, we have a question from Owen Thomas. From the public sector aspect, will the assets match the service contract number associated with it? This helps with opening attack cases.
Yeah, so we can actually view the service contracts here. It would be able to see the contract number, the support type, the partner associated, and we'd click in and be able to see all of the assets tied to that contract. As well as we click into a specific device, we'd also be able to see things around the contract number as well. Oh, and did that help answer your question? TBD. Okay, we're gonna you got TBD. Okay, back to assets. Perfect.
Oh,
Thank you, Owen.
Nice. Thank
He
you.
said nice. Okay.
Perfect. So those are the ways that we ingest data into Cisco IQ. With that set aside, let's do some more discovery. This is going to be your inventory tab. So this is the massive list of all 4,000 devices we have in the demo environment. As you can see, this is a table you can easily customize. If I care about serial number more than product ID, great. I can drag and drop things. Additionally, I can select more columns as needed. If I filtered for the information I need, I have the column selected I want, great. I can export this into a CSV or an Excel sheet right away. But before I go into more of analysis, I want to show you what it's like when you click on a particular device, which we got a little sneak peek of already. You'll see all the details. As we can see, this is a Catalyst 9400 device. We can see things regarding product, identity, location, that signal I mentioned, is telemetry being shared, warranty, and coverage. We will also be able to view product alerts. So has anything been announced in regards to the specific device? We can see that there is 23 security advisories linked to this device. But additionally, we'll see any field notices that are applied as well, along with any hardware end of life announcements. Speaking of hardware and software, if we go here, we'll be able to see the device, the hardware hierarchy that's assigned to this device. So all the different subcomponents that roll up into the major. Again, here we'll also see the end of life milestone if that's applicable. But we can see what that milestone timeline would look like on the software side. So in order to get software information and configuration data, we would need telemetry being shared with the IQ link or a connector. But we can see here the milestone timeline. I can drop down to figure out what this means. And I will say right now in IQ, it is just hardware and the software tied to the hardware. At a future release, we will have SaaS applications and more license management integrated. Down the line, the goal is to have IQ be the place where you do manage your license and do license management. But that's just coming at a later release. So right now it is hardware based. Back to inventory. So I showed you a bit about how you can look at hardware and software end of life, last day of support, all those fun things. I know in the past, if we remember that one slide with all the information on the left, that's kind of what doing refreshes looked like. All the data was fragmented. You either had to go to your internal team or a Cisco team to figure out where is all that data around my LDOS? How do I make sure I refresh? How do I make sure I prioritize? How do we budget properly? So that's a lot of information. That's a big analysis to do. I get tired just going through that talk track. But I'm going to show you how we can use the Ask AI Assistant to help us maybe run a report and analysis on LDOS, since we do have that information in IQ. So again, we have the AI Assistant. It is trained on all of the things, again, on that, keep referencing that one slide, on that left-hand side, the things from the troubleshooting guides, our best practices, advisories. So while this can't send Yuli an email, today, I can't ask it to write him a nice email. I can ask it questions in the context of IQ. Things like that include things around Lifecycle and LDOS, coverage and contracts, field notices, telemetry, even case management. So you can ask a free text query, but we also have pre-selected questions if you need some guidance at the beginning. We talked a little bit about TAC. We can actually do some queries around case management. So for example, show open cases, close the support case, add a participant, escalate an open case, requeue, add notes. So we can do a lot of case management within IQ in this consolidated space. Same thing with troubleshooting. For example, if there's a syslog message, you have no clue what it means, great, we can potentially help you with that via our troubleshooting option. Where I want to focus today is on the assets, and this is where I'm going to run my query today. As you can see, there's a lot of ways to summarize LDOS. I actually was on a demo with another customer where we're using their demo environment, their actual IQ environment, and they wanted a report done on all their subcomponents. So on a live demo, we asked IQ, okay, please create a summary of all of the subcomponents for asset management purposes. We were able to generate that report within IQ. But today I'm going to show you how we can generate a report on assets reaching LDOS in the next 12 months. So right now it's going to our demo environment in Santa Clara, running on those devices. We get this high-level summary back with the information it was able to gather. So we can see across the board, 100 total chassis are reaching LDOS in the next 12 months. What are those top product families and what are those top locations? If this is encompassing the data I want, great, I can download this into an Excel. I can manage it from there. I want to take it one step further. I can analyze this response. And what this is going to do is generate a high-level report for me that I can then say pass off to a decision maker around refresh budget. So if we need help creating those reports, getting all that information consolidated and summarized, this is a great tool to help with that as well. So as we see it's starting to download, it's going to provide high-level insights. Maybe some things in red we need to focus on. For example, there's no buffer beyond standard coverage. We know when coverage ends. That might be an important point we need to talk to the key decision maker around budget on. There's no leeway once support ends. We can also see chassis coverage status, and we'll also get visuals surrounding analysis in regards to this query. So things like top product families, locations, etc., with key insights already tied to those. Now, if something here is not to your liking, that's no problem. We can customize within here. Again, we can enter a prompt here, or we can browse. So say around enrichment, I need XYZ chart added or this chart removed because that's a priority for me. I can change focus, so shift the narrative to maybe prioritize geographic concentration risk, or even text. I want XYZ rephrased, got that as well. So really easy again to customize these within IQ. Once this is done, I can download this as a PDF, or I could save it and it will show up in my reports section on the homepage. Any questions regarding Ask AI, the assets capabilities?
No questions?
I will take the silence as awe, which anyway, moving on. Again, I mentioned earlier we can view the service contracts. Again, click in to see the contract number as well as all the assets that are tied to it. Final thing I'd like to show in regards to the assets is the LDOS dashboard. So a reason to get on IQ now is that, again, it did just release in April. So with that, engineers and product management are very, very eager to hear your feedback and features you want to see. You can actually suggest that up here. But why I mention that now is this LDOS dashboard actually came about because during early field trial, we had a lot of customers wanting to have a more consolidated view of the information we were providing. So that's how this dashboard was born. As you can see, it's a consolidated view of LDOS across all the data we have ingested here. And again, think about how that can then go into cloud control. So that data is all here. So one section I love to show is assets that are past LDOS and vulnerable. I think this is a very interesting analysis they put in here. So reason why we need to refresh is, again, devices that aren't covered are more vulnerable to attacks and advisories and just overall vulnerabilities. So here we could see assets that are past LDOS as well as assets that are vulnerable. And maybe the intersection here is a place we want to focus on first if we're not sure where to prioritize in our refresh. So then we have those filters already set, and all these assets fall into both buckets. So not only, again, are they past LDOS, but they've already accrued vulnerabilities. So maybe that's a good place to start. But that's a high level where we're starting at with the dashboard and assets capabilities. I'm going to move into assessments if there's not any questions.
No questions.
Beautiful. So assessments, what we're looking at here is our proactive and reactive security. So you have your security advisories, which again are your P-certs, and your field notices, which are your non-security related advisories. These are included for all devices. And I'm going to click into these two first before I even start with the assessments. So again, what we can do is we can view by the advisory type. So we can see all the different assessments we have or different advisories Cisco has let out. I can click into one, and what we will see is a bit about the assessment. I can click here to view the advisory on Cisco's website, or say if I have devices affected by this, I could also ask AI, hey, what are the potential workarounds for this advisory for this device? What affected products are there? Again, that Ask AI assistant's also there to help. Let's click into a device that's been affected by this advisory. And if you're familiar with CX Cloud, you know the advisories in the past have been more generic in terms of being applied to your devices. It wasn't specific to your environment. Now it is. So now what we could see is that this device specifically matched on software type, software release, a configured feature, and it matched on image. So that's how we know this device was affected by this advisory. And now we have the whole snapshot. We have the results, we have the assessment, and we have more about the asset. Field notices, again, it's going to be the same thing, but it's going to be in ties to non-security related advisories. If I go back to the overview, so again, that's available for all devices if you're sharing telemetry. Next thing is going to be security hardening and configuration assessments. These are only assets on the standard or signature level of support will be measured against these assessments. And what they are, security hardening takes our security OS hardening guide and looks at deviations across your network in order to find risks that might affect potential vulnerabilities, etc. So that is going to look at Cisco's best practices in regards to hardening your security posture and take those assessments and run them against your devices to see which ones are following our best practices and which ones are not. Configuration is along the same lines of it does the same thing of taking our configuration best practices and measuring your devices against those. So I love to show an example in configuration. So again, this is the configuration assessment. It will give you a bit about the assessment. Also a high level summary of all the assets that have been measured against this particular assessment. But let's look at a particular assessment. How many times can Jackie say assessment in one time? We're going to click on my one I love to look at, which is looking at 802.1x access port authentication. It's a high severity, so maybe a good point to start. We can learn more about this specific rule. So what does it do? It checks whether wired access ports are set to require authentication before granting access to the network. And as you can see, I have 2 devices that have not passed this assessment. So let's click into one. And if the asset is on standard or signature, what we'll see is we'll get the finding evidence. How do we know that this is not set up on this device? Well, it's actually in the configuration here. We found the proof that showing it's not configured. What I could then do is say copy and paste this over to my network engineer, say something along the lines of Cisco says we should have this set up. We don't. Let's make sure we do. You can have these run daily, weekly, monthly, however frequent or infrequently you want. So once the engineer has fixed this, it's now passed. Next time it reloads, it will show as passed. Now, if this asset is on signature, which this one is, we will actually give the suggested commands to reconfigure. Now, this is not, we can't reconfigure within IQ. I've gotten that question several times. Will someone play around and accidentally reconfigure something? No, this still has to be copied and pasted into a control pane of some sort. But again, if the asset's on signature, we will give you the suggested commands in order to reconfigure to fix, in order for that device to now follow Cisco's best practice. We can also then view all of our findings by the asset to see maybe we want to focus on the one that's following the least amount of security hardening best practices, or the one that has the most advisories, would be able to sort and organize by that. Of course, the AI assistant's also a great way to organize and prioritize as well. Final thing I want to go over is just support. And then this is again where you can manage and open TAC cases. So again, I can see all the TAC cases, but I'm not entitled to any of the contracts here, so I won't be able to view any of the information here. Which also leads me into different visibility options within IQ. Like I mentioned, there's that role-based viewer or admin, but you can also create visibility groups. In assets, does one group not need to see another group's assets? If that's the case, you can create a group where only group A gets to see these assets and group B only gets to see these assets, and entitle them to certain contracts. In that case, they wouldn't be able to see the specific case information if they're not entitled to the contract. The other thing you can do if you're on a standard or above contract is create asset tags. So say if you want to break things down by location, or I know a lot of y'all probably have sub entities that they only care about their specific devices. Creating those custom tags would be extremely helpful in order to narrow down that information. Again, and making that easy and relevant to view right when you log in. That's all I have for today. Again, we have a major release coming at the end of July, which is very exciting. Some new features coming along, but this is what we've had since April. Again, you can go to iq.cisco.com today and create your account. Again, it is self-onboarding, but if you do run into any technical issues along the way, we do have designated TAC members who specialize in IQ to help. And you'd be able to open that TAC case within IQ. Any questions, comments, concerns, excitement?
No questions. Any closing remarks?
Thank you, Jackie. What a wonderful demo. And Al as well. He had to leave already, but I'll make sure to pass on our appreciation to him as well. I hope you all found this interesting. We're really looking forward to getting you onboarded into Cisco IQ and later on into cloud control so that you can meet your first digital teammate. Thank you all.
Thanks all. And I will add next month's training is Cisco U. Actually, Justin will be leading that effort for us. But where I think it complements what we've done so far is that we're definitely getting you the tools you need, and we're helping to improve the processes. But we also understand that there's a need in helping fill knowledge gaps that we all might have. And Cisco U is a perfect way to go ahead and get some targeted, relevant training that helps your team to level up their skills so that it's easier for everyone to get the value out of the investments you made. So with that, we're looking forward to seeing you. I'm assuming there are no other questions. So yeah, thank you everyone for your time and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Oh, it looks like there was a question. Is there a replay available for this meeting summary on Cisco Live 2026? Yes, we will be sending out the recording.
Thanks all.
Thank you.